What a lovely day. Let's see what we have on YouTube today. Let's see what interesting stuff we can watch. Oh? The Deepwoken Discord is in trouble? What's going on in this video then?
We are seeing the suggestions strike. The uprising has begun.
Ah, well, yeah. I can see why people are upset. But they're wrong. Alright, so a bit of background for this video. I'm a game designer and I have been for 4 years, so I do have a much better understanding than the average Joe, which this video is going to be mostly about, average Deepwoken player. I'm basically making this to just tell the community that they're wrong. I'm not saying that they're completely wrong, but I'm saying like a large majority of it is that they're in the wrong. Unfortunately, that is just the case. Now, the suggestions channel is a very good channel to have, and I think it's very healthy, but when people say that it is completely ignored, which for the most part it is, it's rightfully so, because there's a lot of suggestions which outright don't make any sense for the game. There's a lot of them.
It's not even that you want Trustan to go through hyper armor. It's just that you don't want to have Trustan in the game. That's the suggestion. It's not even a correct suggestion. Yeah. But like, when people like give suggestions or say things, but they don't give reasonings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's like something I just.
It literally says within the rules of suggestions as well to make reasonings, and like you rarely see it.
Yeah. Michael, you should
Why
add that
do you want me to
suggestions
step away
and
from
force
it?
the room with the suggestions harder.
And it's not just, you know, a lot of them are good, it's most of them are not good. And you might think that they are good, and then you think they're fun, and a lot of people think they're fun. Like, you can have the majority of people thinking that it's a good suggestion and it would be fun for the game, but it doesn't actually mean it would be good for the game. Because what I feel like a lot of people don't realize is if you want something to be added, it wouldn't always make something fun. Like, new content isn't always going to make things better, it can also make things worse. And it kind of brings me around to where I'm basically going with this, is that most of the time, game communities don't actually know what they want. They say they want one thing, but once they're given it, they don't actually want it. They realize that this isn't what they wanted, that they wanted something else. There's plenty of times where there are plenty valid reasons where they should have things that they want. There's plenty of things in Deepwoken which people have wanted, like the bank system, which were very good for the game, admittedly. But like, there's a lot of suggestions which people think would be very healthy for the game, which really end up, like, they wouldn't end up being that healthy for the game in the end. And for that reason, a lot of suggestions are often discarded or overlooked from the devs' perspective, and also because devs probably have their own ideas which they want to go to, and they only really take suggestions once they're out of ideas, and even then they probably see other people in general talking about it, or other channels. I know, for example, in the Deepwoken info channel, you have some of the devs who are in media a fair bit, or I know one of them, and I've seen him take in several suggestions from there, just from seeing images. I was like, you know what, that's a good idea, let me add that. So there's a lot of things which does get through. It's just about when and where. The suggestions channel probably isn't used as much, probably because it's a bit oversaturated with bad ideas. Now, the suggestions channel is still pretty good. Like, most of the suggestions are just small quality of life stuff which they could fix up, and I agree with them for the most part. These small changes would be pretty good. But the thing is, it's their game. They get to decide what to get added and what doesn't. And most of the devs don't work on Deepwoken full time, they work on other stuff instead, which means that Deepwoken gets kind of pushed to the side, so that whenever they do work on something, it's probably something that they've thought of during the time, and that they push that out instead. I'm not saying that suggestions are ignored or that they're accepted, but that they have other priorities instead. And I feel like that's something that is kind of a loss with Deepwoken's community as well, is the community's reaction to the developers, moderators, and pretty much everyone around them. The community itself is very toxic, to say the least. And it creates an environment where the developers don't really always want to listen to the community. Because if you have a community which is majority toxic, it's going to be hard to listen to what they want. This in of itself is maybe a subject for another video, but it is something I do want to touch on lightly with this video, and that is the fact that people aren't always happy for what they get for the game. I don't feel like they appreciate the game that they have, and they instead try to always get more and more and more, which is good to an extent. You're allowed to do that, but I also don't feel like you should be toxic while doing it. Like, the community is incredibly toxic while trying to strive for a better game. It's not often where I can see such a good game, and in a healthy state as well, being dogged on by the community so hard when it's giving so much back. We get devs that actually listen and interact with the community. Not everyone, and not often, but they do, and it's enough to make it noticeable. We get devs that update the game weekly and make balance patches, which are quite important and change things up a lot. They're aware of what they're doing, and I just feel like when it comes to games, it's such a good thing that we have going on in Deepwoken, and I don't feel like people really appreciate it. And it's honestly a bit sad. I also see a complaint that the community does a lot, where the game isn't what it used to be, but at the same time, the game is much better now than what it used to be. There are some factors which we all enjoyed back then, back in verse 1, where maybe enchants were more rare, builds weren't as broken, but when you compare it now to then, the game is in a much healthier state. We don't have really bad systems in place. It's much more forgiving, which means that new players can come in, which means that the game can thrive more, and the developers get more money and income, which means that they have more motivation to work on the game, which means that we get a better product, the players. And I feel like it's just something kind of small that not everyone notices, but it's just such an important aspect, and I feel like it should be known. But yeah, it's just watching some of the videos I see from people, it's really insightful because I learn new things. I think about things in a new way. Like, I've been having some of these things in my mind, but I haven't had a way to formulate them or put them in a video up until now. So I'm really thankful to DanVR for making this video and pointing this out, because without it, I wouldn't have thought about it in this way and being able to formulate it like I have here. But yeah, I'm just really passionate about Deepwoken, and I hope that everyone else can be as passionate as I am for the game as well. But yeah, that's about it. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. If you guys at any point in the video enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe, as that would help me out a shit ton, as I'm trying to reach 3,000 subs right now. Otherwise, thank you.